The FIA is corrupt. The FIA is wrong. The FIA is waiting for the free Logan Sargeant merch announced at the end of the video. Those are just some of the most vocal opinions flying around after the US Grand Prix at Austin Circuit of the Americas, which, while mostly uneventful on track, has spiraled into a furious and controversial online debate overnight after the race, with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton being disqualified with a floor ride height issue. This has cost the Mercedes driver especially, as Lewis had battled fantastically back on an alternate strategy to finish the race in hot pursuit of Red Bull's Max Verstappen, and would have likely caught them and taken the victory if Mercedes had stopped Hamilton a couple of laps sooner when the driver of the 44 first confirmed they were struggling on their medium tyres. But all that has been swept away by what most fans are calling an unfair and politically motivated decision by senior FIA officials, who disqualified the 16 and 44 cars for, quote, not complying with minimum plank wear post-race specified in the regulations. What this means is the wooden section underneath the cars, surrounded by their floor carbon, had been worn down too much during the race, which the FIA will attribute to ride height discrepancies, which therefore mean that the car was illegal. But realistically, this isn't the case. Austin is one of the roughest surfaces on the F1 calendar, and both Mercedes and Ferrari's technical delegates have explained this as the cause of the extra wear on their skid pads. And when you consider that this was also a sprint weekend, with teams only having one free practice session to figure out their setups for the qualifying, sprint, and race before parc fermé rules come into effect and changes can no longer be made, and then it seems that the FIA's desire for more on-track racing in the sprints and making more money by selling more tickets is just as responsible for the two issues with the cars as either of the two disqualified teams were. But this is symptomatic of a larger issue within the FIA's system of governance, in both their ridiculous inconsistency of officiating, but the way it is carried out as well, in an officious manner often detrimental to the sport. To clarify, decisions made by the stewards at the track are supposed to be independent of the FIA's process, but most fans of F1 will know that that hasn't been the case for a long time. Ever since the disgraceful farce that was Abu Dhabi 2021, which we all know was wrong at every level, as the FIA chose to put money ahead of legality within their own rules, the FIA have been under increased scrutiny. They've made great decisions in terms of marketing and PR, bring in a newer, younger and more diverse fan base who bring fantastic new energy to the racing audience. But the FIA has decided to make F1 more than just on-track action according to a rigid set of rules. They've started to bend and twist their own interpretations to keep their favourites in power. Multiple times Red Bull have been found guilty of cheating in various ways, but have received little more than a punishment of a slap on the wrist and a bit of a telling off. While you can bet that if those cost cap breaches had been Mercedes or Alfa Romeo Sauber or Aston Martin, teams whose drivers have explicitly expressed their dissatisfaction with the way the sport is being run, then it would have been a much harsher set of penalties than just 20% less wind tunnel time in a few years, and allowing an illegally developed car a whole 2 years of dominance. And while FIA defenders will claim that post-race inspections are done at random, and aren't always at the request of another team's protests about a rival, it always seems to be done with an intention of finding fault with the cars of their most vocal critics. In Austin, there were 4 cars inspected post-race, one from each of the top 4 teams, and while all were found to have, quote, excessively high wear on the underside of their cars, only Hamilton and Leclerc were beyond the FIA's limit of 9mm following high wear conditions. The teams have both confirmed that they accept the measurements made by the FIA were correct, but we have not yet had the detailed numbers from the other cars inspected, which were rumoured to be within hundreds of millimetres of failing too. In fact, I would put solid money on over half the grid being over this line, if they too had been checked, but since they weren't, only 2 cars get DQ'd. Verstappen gets another win, and once again Lewis Hamilton is shafted by the sport's internal politics being inflexible but him, but perfectly malleable for others. This has been going on all week. On Monday, the FIA even confirmed that they were revisiting Hamilton's penalty for crossing the track in Qatar solely because of his, quote, role model status, when in fact if you look at what they're actually doing, it's probably better labelled as singling them out for punishment. And I don't think I need to point out why they might have chosen to do this to the driver wearing a rainbow helmet in Qatar. So what we have is selective involvement, a lack of transparency, blatant prioritization of profit over sporting integrity, but what we also have of a consequence is Logan Sargeant scoring points? Now, it might not have been exactly due to their on-track performance, although it was another step of continuous improvement. But regardless of the how, Logan has become the first American to score points in 30 years, which is worth celebrating. And what better way to do that celebrating than to draw a winner in our autographed Williams F1 merch giveaway. So without any further delay, our winner is Kemi Racing, who entered over on X. So Cammy, drop me a DM to claim your prize. And for everyone else, stay tuned, as I'll have loads more giveaways going on in the coming months. And better luck next time. But that was your roundup of the main stories from COTA. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please support the channel by hitting like, subscribe, and click the link down below where you can have your say on what content I cover next. As always, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Stay safe out on the road, and I'll see you next time.
Earnhardt Jr. takes it. Lewis Hamilton, champion of the world.
Ewan Kankin, 4 times title holder.